Okay, so really we're just looking at some more complex formulas with some more kind of different things that we have to undo and rearrange. So we're going to look at brackets, we're going to look at when we have roots involved and also squares involved. That's what we're going to look at today. So similar fashion to how it worked last Thursday, I've got kind of 6 examples to show you. 5 or 6, I can't remember. I think it's 6. They're the same 6 examples that are at the top of the exercise that you're going to do after the call. So if you're not quite sure what I've written and you want a second look, well, they're written for you again at the top of the exercise. I've just taken those examples from there. So what to do? Copy the examples down with me, then we'll work through them together. So first example is P equals A bracket x plus n, and we are trying to make x the subject. Okay, so remember, our goal to get the subject on its own on the left hand side and a positive on its own on the left hand side. Okay, that's our goal. So right now it's in a bracket and that bracket's been multiplied by something else, so there's a few things we need to get rid of. Our new subject is a positive though, so we can just flip it round to get the subject on the left hand side. So we can rewrite this as A bracket x plus n is equal to P. Okay, and always start with that process if your subject is not on the left hand side. The only time you wouldn't do that is when your new subject is a negative value, which it isn't right now. Okay, so we need to strip away everything that's on the same side as x. So the first thing we have is we have this a, which is multiplying this bracket. Now that is going to be the first thing we want to get rid of, and we are going to undo that by dividing both sides by a. Okay, so write that in there, divide by a, divide by a. Now what that is going to form is a fraction on the right hand side. Don't write p divided by a, you write it as a fraction when we're doing this. Okay, so it's x plus n, the bracket is now just on its own, so you don't have to write the actual brackets, and p divided by a we would always write as a fraction. Now all we have to do is to get rid of the plus n, which we do that by taking away n from both sides. Okay, so that leaves me just with x on its own, which is what I want. P over a, that fraction stays there, and then separately take away n. And that is your final answer there. Right, back to it then. So that's the first example, which Alistair you'll need to quickly copy down. Question number 2 is, as you see it, we've got 2 fractions. We've got v plus u over w equals bw divided by 6. Okay, and we're trying to make v the new subject. So copy that question down. Let's have a think of what we want to do here. So we want to get v on its own. We know from our equation work, anytime we've got a fraction involved, we want to try and get rid of that straight away. So the fraction that we're trying to get rid of is the one that is attached to our subject. So we want to get rid of this divide by w, which we can do by multiplying both sides by w. Okay, so we know that the times w and the w on the bottom cancel out to give me just v plus u. And what is going to give me here is bw times w. So that is bw times w. So w times w becomes w squared. And that is still over 6. I hope you're all happy with me to do that. bw times w is the same as bw squared. Okay, we've got the same variable multiplying itself. Now we're in a similar position to where we were in the previous example. At this stage, we've got a plus u that we want to get rid of. So we're going to take away u from both sides. And that leaves me with v equals bw squared over 6. Now, look carefully at how I've written that. I have not written the fraction over the whole top line. That is a fraction on its own, bw squared over 6, and then we take away a u separately. So you must keep those in separate terms. Right? Be careful, it's not the whole fraction over everything. bw squared over 6, and then we're taking away u. Okay? That's 1 and 2 done. Now, let's go down to example 3 and 4. So this is where we're starting to bring in some squares and roots, some powers and some roots. So the first one, for question 3, is p squared equals r over q, and we are trying to make p the subject. Now there are no need to switch this because our new subject is already on the left. The only operation or thing that is that we have to do here is undo the squared. Now the opposite of squaring something is to take the square root of both sides. So we are going to have to take the square root of both sides. Now what that means is the square root of p squared just becomes 1p, and we have to take the square root of this whole fraction. Now what you must make sure you do is you take the square root of the entire fraction, r over q. And you'll remember me talking about this when we were reversing the, I think it was the area of a circle formula to get r, and we had to undo the r squared at the end. You have to do the square root, which is over everything. Okay, so over the full fraction. And that's it. P is now on the left on its own, so p equals the square root of r over q. Okay, slightly more complex example. In example 4, we've got t equals 1/5 k squared h, and we want to get k to be the new subject. Okay, so copy that down. Then let's go for it. Sophie, are you all good now? Can you see? Leave me a wee comment saying you're all good if you are. Okay, t equals 1/5 k squared h. K is not on the left at the start, so let's get it on the left. Let's swap it round, flip it round. 1/5 k squared h equals t. Right, we've got a fraction. We don't want fractions. We want to get rid of the fraction straight away by multiplying everything by 5. So this is all one term because there's no add or subtracting anything. So only have to multiply that once, and then I have to multiply that. Okay, thanks Sophie, I got your message. When I put the video up, to be honest, you'll be fine with those two examples, 1 and 2, they're easy. But you can watch it back in the video anyway. So the 5th goes with the times by 5, leaving me with just k squared h. T times 5, no, I'm not going to write t times 5, I'm not going to write t5, I'm going to write 5t. Number comes first, remember. Right, what's next? Now, we do have a squared, but you are not going to do that until the very, very end. So if you have something multiplying it, or something else dividing it, you would sort that out at this stage. So please, please listen carefully to what I'm saying. Do not undo the squared until the very last step. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get rid of this times h by dividing by h. Remember, if the letters are just right beside each other, it means that they're multiplying. So, divided both sides by h, I'm left with k squared equals 5t over h as a fraction. And the last step is to take the square root of both sides. So that is going to be k equals, remember, square root goes over the entire fraction, 5t over 4. Final answer. K is on its own on the left hand side now. If you have any questions about any of these guys, please ask as I'm going along. You can put your hand up function or something. But I think they should be okay, those ones so far. So let's try 5 and 6. So question 5, we're bringing in another bracket with a fraction. Question 6 is a root. We'll deal with that in a second. So question 5, y equals 3/4 x plus a. that is actually the equation of a straight line, which you will see next year. Y equals 3/4 x plus 8, and we're trying to get x to be the subject. So we've got a fraction. We want to get rid of that, but first of all, we need to get x on the left. So flip it round first of all. So 3. Why is this being annoying? 3/4 x plus 8. That's not an A. Equals y. Right, now we're going to get rid of the fraction by multiplying both sides by 4. Now, I said that this was one term if there was no add or subtract. It gets slightly complicated here because it is a fraction times a bracket. Now the bracket, imagine that as just being like a letter. That is just like 3/4 times a letter, which means it is all actually just one term. So I just need to multiply this once, and then I need to multiply the term on the right. So treat a bracket as if it is one single term, one letter. So the divide by 4 cancels with the times by 4. It leaves me 3 bracket x plus a equals y times 4, so that's going to be 4y. Now we're stripping away everything on the same side as x. So I've got a 3 times, which I'm going to undo by dividing by 3, which is going to produce a fraction over there. So x plus a equal to this fraction. X plus a equals 4y over 3. Almost there. We had a similar situation before where we have a fraction and then we are taking away just a variable. Now remember, that fraction is going to be left exactly as it is, and then I am going to just simply take away a on the end of it. Okay, so x is therefore now going to be equal to 4y over 3, and then take away a. Final answer. Okay, last one, and then I'll let you begin for yourself, is when our new subject is starting as a square root. So copy down example 6 just now, which is m equals 5 root n over 4. Okay, we want to get the n on the left, so let's flip it round first. So 5 root n over 4 equals m. Now, similar to when we had a squared, I said leave that to the very end. You're going to be leaving the root into the very end as well. So we're getting this down to just root n, and then we will get rid of the square root. So everything else, get rid of that first. So our instincts is to get rid of this fraction first. So similar to the last one, we're going to multiply both sides by 4 to get rid of that fraction. So that's going to be 5 root n equals 4 times m, 4m. Okay, now get rid of the 5 times by dividing by 5. Okay, so we're going to get the square root of n equals, as a fraction, 4m over 5. And carefully here, to undo the square root of something, I have to square it. So to undo a square, I take the square root. To undo a square root, I square both sides. So I am squaring both sides, which you might we wouldn't kind of write that underneath in any sort of way. So you can maybe just write a wee comment, square both sides, just so you have it in your examples. You don't need to write that every time when you're working. So root n squared is n. Now carefully here, do not write what I'm about to write, because this is what people often write and it's incorrect. Nope, that's not going to cut it. 4m squared over 5 is not what I'm asked for here. That is, what that looks like is just 4m squared and then over 5. which is not how you solve this. You are squaring the entire fraction on the right hand side. So what we have to do is we have to put the entire fraction into a bracket. So that entire fraction on the right hand side, put it into a bracket. For m over 5 all squared. And now we're done. Okay, so any you're not sure of, you maybe want a second look at, I will be posting this video soon. You can go back and have another look at the example. And as I say, these examples are also in the top of the exercise, which is changing the subject to, which I'd like you to do now.